Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Dandavat Pranams to all the devotees. Thank you all for joining in. Today is very special. Actually, today we have His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, as well as Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj in Mumbai, Juhu Temple in the evening. There will be Abhishek of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus footprints that will be actually established in the various places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited during the Vrindavan Yatra. So, a very wonderful ceremony in the evening today at 7 p.m. at Juhu Temple. So, those of us who are in Bombay can take advantage. I'm not sure anyone is from Bombay here. So, Hare Krishna. So, let's start with prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Arjana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Dushe Namaha Panchadattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatharubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrapatamaham Mande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mishwaram Harihi Om Tatsat. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining in. So we are studying chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. So to quickly summarize what we have studied thus far, in chapter 1, we saw how it starts off with Dhritarashtra making an inquiry to Sanjaya. What did my sons and sons of Pandu do, like that? So he is only interested in what is the outcome of the battle. Did the war start? What happens, especially since it's happening in the holy place of Kurukshetra? So what is happening, like that? And then Sanjaya actually is replying to Dhritarashtra because he's got this vision of this battle of Kurukshetra by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva. And at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, we see how Sanjaya as well as Arjuna, who are making inquiries or who had the darshan of what was happening in the battlefield, they all got purified. They knew they were okay. So okay. So I hope the volume is okay now. Yeah. They got relieved of all of their doubts and misconceptions. Yeah. But then Dhritarashtra was not cured of his doubts. Why? Because Dhritarashtra did not hear to the entire thing with an open mind. He was only he only wanted to see what he wanted to see and hear what he wanted to hear. That the battle is taking place and then Duryodhana and his own sons are winning the battle. That's what he wanted to hear. So in this way, later on, Vidura had to come to take away Dhritarashtra from his attachment to the throne and to his kinsmen. Even after all of his 100 sons were dead, he was not willing to give up the throne. When Yudhishthira Maharaj became the king, yet he was sitting on the throne, right? So in this way, our attachments are so much that we are not able to see the truth, right? So in this way, what happens after that? Arjuna asks Krishna to take the chariot, right? Ratam stapayame achyuta, right? Take the chariot in between both the armies, and then we see how Krishna is introduced as the Partha Sarathi, as driving the chariot for his dear friend Arjuna, right? We saw how in movies and all the heroes introduced in a very very wonderful way, in a heroic way, right? But the Supreme Personality of Godhead wants himself to be introduced as a charioteer of Arjuna, right? Because Krishna is very eager to serve his devotees, and the devotees are very eager to serve Krishna. And this way, there is transcendental competition between the Lord and his devotees. And then, Krishna strategically places the chariot in between the armies, just in front of Bhishma Pitamaha's chariot, and seeing Bhishma Pitamaha, Dronacharya, and all of these kith and kin and gurus and relatives on the other side, Arjuna gets bewildered, so as to say, because Arjuna is becoming an nimitta matra. That's what Krishna wanted. That's why he strategically placed the chariot there. And Arjuna is saying that he will not fight. And then we saw how Prabhupada said it is the compassionate nature of a devotee to not want anything by causing violence to others, by fighting with others, etc. But then when Arjuna put down the Gandiva vow, then Prabhupada said that it is Hridaya Daurbalyam. It is a weakness of the heart. So in all circumstances, we saw how we should not give up performance of our duties. And then and then Arjuna goes on, right? Arjuna gives various reasons why he will not fight, how he will incur sinful reactions, how he will not be able to enjoy the kingdom after the death of his relatives. And in this way, how there'll be Varna Shankara, how the leaders of the family, the male members of the family will die. There'll be Varna Shankara, women will mix freely with other people. There'll be Varna Shankara, unwanted population, etc., etc. All these reasons, which continues until the beginning of chapter 2 also. And then Krishna is patiently listening to Arjuna. And then finally, Arjuna surrenders, right? Sishyaste aham shadi mam tvam prapannam. I am surrendered to you. I am completely confused. What am I supposed to do? And after that, Krishna starts. Asochan andasochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashyase gatasun agatasumcha nanu shochanti pandita. You are mourning for things which are not worthy of grief. And then a couple of verses talk about the eternality of the soul and the perishability or the temporary nature of the body. Various verses were there. Like dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra muyati. Then nainam chintanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha na chainam klediyantyapo na shocheti marutava. Like so many verses were there where Krishna is talking about how the soul cannot be killed, the soul cannot be cut into pieces, the soul cannot be withered by the fire, the soul cannot be blown away by wind, etc., etc. Right? And dehi nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya vaharatah. Right? You will come to that wherein all these verses are pointing to the Guhya Gyan. What is the Guhya Gyan? There is a difference between the body and the soul and the spirit soul. The spirit soul is eternal, whereas the body is always perishable. Right? Achedyoyam adhayoyam akledyo ashoshicha. Nitya sarvagata sthano rachaloyam sanatanaha. The individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, everlasting, present everywhere, and is eternally the same. So in this way, so many verses Krishna is speaking to and make us understand the eternality of the soul. Avyaktoyam, achintyoyam, avikaryoyam uchyate. Tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitam arhasi. Right? The soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, right? And one should not mourn for the change of body. Why? Because just like various changes happen within the body, like from childhood to youth to old age. Similarly, another change is happening at the time of death. And this time it is a change of body. So why should one lament for a change of the body like that? Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir dhirastatrana muyati. Right? And then we will have to start now with verse number 27. Right? So how this discussion again, it goes on with what has been discussed in the past, right? I think we finished with text number 27 last time, wherein Krishna is also talking about Jatasya dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janma mrityasya cha tasmat apariharyati natvam shochitum arhasi. We were talking about how everything has an expiry date, right? That's how we finished our we completed our previous session, wherein, whenever we buy some provisions, there is an expiry date that is written on that. Right? Similarly, our bodies also, which are material, also have an expiry date. Anything that is jada, anything that is material, is always temporary, and there is an expiry date. Whether we know it or not, it is going to expire at some point of time, right? So, in this way, when something is born, it is sure to die, and something dies, it is sure to take its birth again. So, one should not lament in the unavoidable discharge of one's duties. So that way we ended. So now let's go on to text number 28. Okay, so let me share my screen. Devotees who want to read can raise your hands, and then we can start reading from text number 28. Okay, Sindhu Mataji, go ahead. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata vyaktani dhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. Translation. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Translation. Purport by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what is the need? What need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From the subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. Manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation? Either in the stage of manifestation or in the unmanifestation, somehow or the other, even in the unmanifested state, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested, and this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, that these material bodies are perishable in the due course of time, antavanta ime deha, but that the soul is eternal, nitya shyoktaha sharirinaha, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of the dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. Or seated on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages the self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
So here, very beautifully, Prabhupada is explaining here. What is Prabhupada saying? Whether or not we believe in the soul, right? If we don't believe in the soul and we say this body is all in all, then also there is no need for lamentation. Why? Because Prabhupada says, who will lament the loss of certain chemicals? Right? Because we are saying that, the life was created by the Big Bang Theory. That means what? Some chemicals were put together and suddenly there was a blast because of mixing of chemicals, and in that way the body was created, right? So in that case, Prabhupada is saying, what is the need to lament for just a loss of few chemicals, right? And on the other hand, if we believe that there is a soul and this body is temporary, the soul will accept a new body at the end of the term of the particular body, when the body becomes useless, the body becomes old, the body does not remain fit to do certain things, then also there is no need for lamentation. That's what Prabhupada is saying here, right? There is no need to lament for the loss of the body, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul. Yeah. All right. Let's move to text number 29. Who will want to read? Okay. Sudha Mataji. Yeah. Sudha Mataji, go ahead. Monimala Mataji, you can read next. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Ascharyavat
Ashchar-
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Yes, Mataji, continue, no problem.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Sure. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find this passage in the Kata Upanishad 1.2.7. Shravana yapi bahubir yo na labhya shunvanto api baho yam na vidyu आश्चर्यो वक्ता कुशलोस्य लब्धा आश्चर्यो अस्य ज्ञाता कुशलानुशिष्टः. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small practice can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description, illusion by the material energy. People are so engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material mysteries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or the other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Yeah, very beautifully. Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamitihi Sa Mahatmasu Durlabha. Very, very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bahunam Janmanamante, after many, 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 many lifetimes. Right? Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. Right? One intelligent person, one who is proper understanding actually. Prapadyante means surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He only understands Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Lord Vasudeva is the cause of all causes. He is the all in all. Sa Mahatma Su Durlabha. Such a great soul is very, very rare. Right? There may be so many people. Right? Prabhupada writes in the purport of this verse. There are so many people who are inclined to religion. Right? They follow religious rituals. They follow various practices, etc. But then most of them are karma kandis. They want something. Right, and they don't consider the Vedic injunctions at all. And then there are some who follow the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas because they want to get some kind of material prosperity, some material wealth, house, car, whatever may be their desire. So they worship the devatas accordingly, and they try to get whatever they want, right? But it's only very rarely. Chaturvida bhajanti mam jana sukritino arjuna. Artho jignashu artharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. Even higher than them are those pious people who surrender to the Lord because they are in distress, they want to get relief from their distress, because they want some wealth, because they want to inquire who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or even they just want to inquire why am I suffering, right? Such people, amongst all the people who have such desires, because we're all suffering in this material world, but only a certain portion of the people surrender directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even higher than those are those who surrender to the Lord just to be engaged in devotional service. And such a great soul is very, very rare. That is what is mentioned by Prabhupada here. That Prabhupada is mentioning that it is very, very difficult to find a person who is surrendering to the Lord for the just to accepting the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And how is this possible? This is possible by the causeless mercy of a pure devotee and by no other way, right? Why is it possible? Only by the causeless mercy of a devotee. That is what we've been studying. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Even in the introduction section we saw, right? What are the qualifications of a teacher and what are the qualifications of a disciple, right? The student's qualification is that one should hear with faith, one should hear from a bona fide spiritual master, and one should be willing to serve that spiritual master, and one should make humble inquiry without a challenging spirit. And what is the requirement of a teacher? The requirement of the teacher is that one should have realized the essence of the Vedic scriptures, right? Veda is to survive, ahameva vedyo, right? One should understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our duty is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sambandha, the abhideya, and the prayojana gyan should be very clear. Such a person who is coming in a bona fide Guru Parampara, whether it is Shri Sampradaya or it's Kumara Sampradaya or it is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Guru Parampara that we are coming in, or whether it is Kumara Sampradaya, one of the four bona fide paramparas, and one who has no intention for a name, fame, glory, adoration, money, etc. from the recitation of Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. Someone who is simply coming in a bona fide parampara and who passes on the message as it is, as received in the Guru Shishya Parampara. Such a person is qualified to speak on the Bhagavad Gita, and somebody who has faith and who is sincere and he wants to apply the principles in one's life is a qualified hearer of the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic scriptures. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next verse. Who will read? Okay. Monimala Mataji, go ahead. Dehi nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shojitum arhasi. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve her for any living being. The Lord Mataji's Skala.
Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yes, Mataji. Yes. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna as a Kshatriya should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher Bhishma and Drona will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material
maturity.
Just a minute, Mataji. I can find Mataji. Yes, material maturity.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously.
Yes, Madhu. Thank you. So here, Prabhupada is saying that neither violence nor non-violence is good, right? Because everything has its utility according to time, place, and circumstances. We are not saying that Yeah, we were discussing the other day also about this, right? So when somebody, Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy was that somebody beats you in one cheek, what you should do? You should show the other cheek, right? But that is not what is recommended by Lord Sri Krishna, right? Krishna says one should perform one's duty. One need not unnecessarily accept any kind of any kind of philosophy which is not helping one in Krishna consciousness, right? We are neither vegetarians nor we are nor are we practitioners of non-violence, right? We are not. We follow non-violence. Why? Because there is a higher principle, right? As per se, we are not saying we are non-violent. We allow anybody else to walk on us and do whatever they like with us, right? Because we are Krishna conscious devotees, we will not do anything, right? No, Prabhupada said you have to stand for our rights, right? If anything comes in the way of our devotional service, we have the right to not accept it or to not go for it, right? So like that, we are Krishnatarians, right? We want to engage in the service of the Lord, and anything that is anukulyena, what is that? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, right? So what is that? Whatever is favorable to Krishna consciousness, you have to take it up and practice it. However, whatever is not favorable to Krishna consciousness, that we have to give it up, right? We don't artificially renounce anything, whether it is whether even fighting, right? We saw in the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, right? How Hanumanji engaged his anger in the service of the Lord. Arjuna is engaging his anger in actually fighting with the Kurus, right? One cannot fight unless one is having that anger, right? Otherwise, it's not possible to fight. So here we are not saying that we have to give up anger, we have to practice non-violence. Nothing of that sort is given here. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to follow the instructions of the Guru and do what is specified, and in that way advance in Krishna consciousness, like that. Sorry. Okay, text number 31. Nagavini Mataji, go ahead. Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitum dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
pranam to all. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Purport: one of the out of the four orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called kshatriya. Ksha means hurt, one who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. Kshayate, to give protection. The kshatriya are trained for killing in the forest. A kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, he would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing.
Because
Sorry, Mataji. Challenging and killing, because religious violence is sometimes necessary for. Therefore, Kshatriya are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation.
non-violence in politics.
Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle in the religious law books. It is stated.
Ahevesho miti anyonyam jigamsanto mahikshitah युद्धमाना परं शक्त्या स्वर्गं यान्ति अपरान् मुखाः यज्ञेषु पशवो ब्रह्मन् हन्यन्ते सततं द्विजैः संस्कृता किल मन्त्रैश्च ते अपि स्वर्गम् अवाप्नुवन्. In the battlefield,
In the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king, envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death, as the brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the artificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the artificial evolutionary process from one form to another, and the kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as to the brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hari Bol. So we'll just discuss this. Yeah. So here, very beautifully, Prabhupada is giving the point how violence or non-violence is not the basis, right? Because killing on the battlefield, like Prabhupada says, right? One who performs duty, someone who dies on the battlefield actually goes to the heavenly planets. Similarly, killing of animals on the sacrificial fire. When someone does that, what happens? The animal gets a human life immediately. So in such a case, we are doing a benefit to the animals by performing that yajna. It is not that we are killing the animals for sense gratification. So yajnatat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. If we perform sacrifice, which is our every activity can be a sacrifice. We discussed that, right? Whatever work we do, right? Yat karoshi, yat ashnasi, yat juhoshi dadasi, yat juhoshi, yat ashnasi, yat juhoshi dadasi, tat karma kaunteya sada tat bhava bhavitha, right? What is that? Yat karoshi, yat ashnasi. Whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we offer, whatever austerities we perform, if we perform it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then what happens? Yajnatat karmano anyatra. That becomes a yajna for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why it not bind us in this material world. Tat kurushva madarpanam, right? Whatever we do, right? Yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat juhosi dadasi, yat tapashyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Right? That kurushva madarpana means what? We have to offer as a sacrifice. Whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever sacrifices we perform, whatever austerities we perform for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. In that way, we don't get bound in this karmic reactions, right? And now Srila Prabhupada is going to talk about Swadharma, right? Swadharma means what? My duty as a wife, as a mother, as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a daughter-in-law, whatever is our bodily designation. We have certain dharma or some duties to perform. How are we going to perform that duty is going to determine our future destination. If I'm going to perform my duty for the sake of performing my duty and for the pleasure of the Lord, with not expecting any results from that, then I'm performing activities in a karma platform. That means I don't have to come back again to either enjoy the fruit of results or to suffer for the sinful reactions. I am performing my duty, right? Prabhupada gives an example in a lecture of a soldier, right, who's fighting for a war, but the soldier is working on behalf of the government. So anybody whom he kills, he is not going to be penalized by it. Rather, he is going to be awarded with a medal, right, at the end of the war. But if he goes home and he kills a neighbor because of some misunderstanding, then what happens? He's put behind the bars. Similarly, when we act according to our mental speculation, we act according to our sense gratification, then we are surely subject to the reactions of that activities. However, they act under the orders of the spiritual master without any material motivation. Then we will be rewarded, just like a soldier is rewarded with medal. We will be rewarded with the medal of Krishna Prema and Krishna Seva, like that. All right, so let's move ahead. There are two kinds of Swadharmas. Who will read? Yeah, Deval Mataji, go ahead. Mataji, you are there?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Yes. Krishna. There are two of Swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with the religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's Swadharma specific duty becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varnashrama Dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashrama Dharma, or specific duties, in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Tanupana.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So very important, right? Whatever we are, right? Chatur Varnyam Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Krishna says the Chatur Varnyam, the 4 Varnas, which is the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the Ashramas, right? Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. According to one's desires, according to one's propensity to do certain work, one can choose any one of the Varnas and Ashrama and follow very strictly the rules and regulations of the Varna and Ashrama, not for attaining material benefit, but for serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, for a Brahmana, what a Swadhyaya is very, very important. A Brahmana studies the Vedic scriptures and he teaches the Vedic scriptures to others. A Kshatriya, like we saw, right? Trayate means protection. A Kshatriya is supposed to give protection to all of the subjects under him, right? That's why Arjuna is even asked to fight the war, right? Why? Because it is a duty of a Kshatriya to have a kingdom, and in this way, protect those people coming in that particular kingdom. That is the role of a Kshatriya. That is the service of a Kshatriya. So a Kshatriya cannot artificially renounce and saying, I am practicing non-violence and go and sit in the forest, right? That is not the duty of a Kshatriya. So in this way, each Varna and Ashrama have certain duties that are prescribed in the Varnashrama system, which are established by the Lord himself. So one has to do one specific duty in any field of action, and in this way one can go to a higher status of life. That's what is given here. All right, so let's end with this verse, text number 32. Who will read this? Yadrichaya chopapannam swargadhvaram apavritam Sukinaha Kshatriya Partha Labante Yuddhami Drisham. Translation. Okay, Nagavani Mataji, your hand is up. Is it for reading? Okay. All right. So, O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So here, the Kshatriyas who die in the battlefield, it's like they will go back home, back to God. No, they will go to the heavenly planets, depending on their consciousness. Even if they die and, they've not practiced any religious principles, etc. also, they have just because they had the fortune of being killed in the battlefield, they will go to the heavenly planets, like that. Prabhupada ki jai. As the supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who said, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of a specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be on the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of the fools, right? So Prabhupada says it's foolish to not perform one's dharma, right? One should actually perform one's dharma. In the Parasara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parasara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastra pani pradandayam nirjitya parasainyadhi kshitim dharmena palayet. What is the duty of a Kshatriya? The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason is to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. So we are not practitioners of non-violence. We are practitioners of dharma. We follow our dharma, which is dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, what is given by the Lord in the Varna and Ashrama system. Therefore, he is to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with the religious principles, he should rule over the world. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case, right? So here Prabhupada is mentioning a very beautiful point, that by performing one's duties, there is no loss or diminution. Neha Vikramanashusti pratyavayana vidyate swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Right? If one performs swadharma with the right consciousness of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or even one performs sanatana dharma, now which is the ABCD square formula application in one's life, in both the cases one will get a higher destination, because one is working not for sense gratification, but one is working for a higher cause, which is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so should we continue? I think we can do 2-3 more verses. We will end at 155 and then do Harinam Sankirtan. So any devotee wants to read can raise your hand. Okay, text number 33. Ata chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatah swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Yes, Mataji. Deval Mataji, go ahead. If, however,
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
If, however, you do not perform your from fighting, then you will certainly incur sin for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Purport by His Grace as Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna was a famous fighter and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in a dress of hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupata Astra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adoptive father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So here, if we don't perform our duty, then we will go to hell, right? But if we perform our duty, we will definitely attain a higher destination. That is why is this reiteration happening? That is because we have to establish ourselves in performing our duties in all situations, whether of happiness or of distress or of heat or of cold, whatever may be the situation. But we are happily performing our duties for the pleasure of the Lord. Text number 34. Sudha Mataji, go ahead. Akirtim chapi bhutani.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandapana.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats.
Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti te vyayam sambhavatisya chakirte marana gatirichyate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Purport. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you a coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you'd better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, so again and again, Krishna is telling the same thing to Arjuna, right? Ma manusmara yuddhyacha. That is an instruction for all of us. We have to never renounce anything, right? Artificial renouncement is not recommended. But however, we have to perform our duties time and again at all times. You have to make a choice to perform our duty. Even though we may not be successful, right? The success or a failure is not in our hands. But performing the endeavor for the pleasure of the Lord is there in our hand, and we should never withdraw from performing our duties, but rather always choose to perform our duties like that. Okay, Sindhu Mataji, go ahead. Text number 35. We'll end with this. Bayad aranat uparatam mamsyante tvam maharatah esham chatumvam bahu mato Bhutva Yasyasilagavam. Mataji, you need to unmute. Are you able to?
Yeah, yes, Mats.
Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Text 35, translation and purport by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Purport, Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Thank you.
Yeah, 36, you can continue, Mataji.
Text 36.
Yeah.
Avachya vadamscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantastava samathyam tato dukkhataram nukim. Translation. Purport by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Purport, Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning of Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion, and he described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So here Krishna is very clearly telling Arjuna not to exhibit this bodily compassion, right? The Hridaya Daurbalyam, he tells, right? It's because of the weakness of the heart that you want to exercise this kind of compassion, not knowing that all those people in this battlefield are actually already been killed by me. So he's going to tell Arjuna, get up with determination and fight the battle in remembrance of me. And that is how we all have to perform our duties. How do we have to perform our duties? We have to perform our duties as per the instructions of our gurus. And in this way, we perform for the pleasure of the Lord, for the pleasure of our spiritual master. If we please the spiritual master, Krishna is pleased. And then we get clear instructions what to do, what not to do, guided by Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So with that, we will end our today's session. Let's quickly do Harinam Sankirtan, and then we will see who are all there today. Thank you all for joining in at a short notice and at a different time. So like I was mentioning in the beginning of the session, today evening, 7 p.m., we are having His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Shri Guru Maharaj at Juhu Temple. And there will be Abhishek of the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that is going to be installed in Vrindavan Dham during April this year. We are 75th Vyasa Puja festival of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Shri Guru Maharaj that's happening on 9th April in Vrindavan Dham, which is as per the English calendar. And 19th April is happening in Mayapur Dham, which is according to the Tithi, the star, like that. So, those of you are in Bombay and, can take advantage of the opportunity. Others can watch on YouTube. There is very wonderful Abhishek, and the three very, very dear disciples of Prabhupada, the very great Maharajas are there. We can come and take their association or our association on the YouTube, as the case may be. So we'll do Harinam Sankirtan and then we'll see who are all there. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadirine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe 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 Radhe, Radhe 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 Radhe, Radhe Radhe Shri Radhe, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Jaya Jaya Sudarshan, Jaya Guru Parampara, Jaya Guru Parampara, Jaya Guru Parampara, Jaya Guru Parampara, Jaya Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Gurudev, Gurudev, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Shri Ram Sankirtan ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Samved Bhakta Vrind ki jai. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so let's quickly have darshan of all the devotees who are there. Sneha Prabha Mataji is there, Nisha Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Monimala Mataji, Ramya Mataji, Deval Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow morning for the Brahma Murta chanting session, and then we will meet at back to at our regular time at 12 o'clock. Tomorrow we will meet for our Bhagavad Gita study, followed by Nectar of Instruction, right, from 12 to 1:15 p.m. So that's the program. Thank you very much. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai. So log into YouTube or meet you all at Juhu Temple, either physically or online. We'll meet in the evening today. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, anyone has any queries or any questions, or anyone wants to share any realizations, you can go ahead. Everyone can mute themselves now. So anything from anyone?
हरे कृष्ण
Alright.
माता जी, कल भी टाइम चेंज रहेगा क्या?
कल टाइम चेंज नहीं रहेगा माता जी. कल हम लोग 12 बजे मिलेंगे दोपहर को, ठीक है?
ओके.
हरे कृष्णा
12
माता जी.
आज 2 बार चेंज किया, वो किया था मैंने. स्टार्ट 12 o'clock and again 12:15 तक वेट किया. फिर
हाँ, मैंने आज एक ही बार मैसेज भेजा था. थोड़ा आई एम नॉट श्योर ऑफ द टाइम टुडे, so that's the reason I sent a message that we'll meet at 1 o'clock only. Yeah, so tomorrow onwards we'll try to be regular at 12 o'clock. Okay, Mataji? Apologies for the change in time today. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada. Dandavat pranam.